the inner world, which is you, right? That's you. And then we got the outer world, which is everything else. So what happens is when you're younger, when you're born to 7, you're programmed from your parents pretty much, and whatever you see, whatever you hear, to kind of learn how the world around you works. Now what happens is that's you, that's the real you. But over time, as you grow up, you go through school, you go through college, get in the workforce, maybe go to the military, whatever, you end up focusing on the outside world. Because now it's like, okay, you're older, you need to create an income, go to school, whatever. As you get older, things change. What happens is you end up taking on ideas and labels that were given to you ever since you were younger. So that's school, that's your family, that's TV, that's the media, the news, all that. You take on these labels and it takes you further away from who you actually are. And you're left with focusing so much on the outside world. And you see it every day. People focus on the news, people focus on viruses, people focus on all this other bullshit that doesn't have nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. Now, don't get me wrong, you can influence things outside of you in the outside world, but it's very hard to do that if you don't have control over your inner world. In order to have control of your inner world, what you have to do is you have to be very focused on you. I talk about this all the time. You have to be focused on you, because when you're focused on you and you start to question everything, you start to understand, okay, I don't like this point of view. I do like this point of view. This makes sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me. Because when you're not thinking for yourself, someone else is going to think for you. And believe you me, we start to get lazy. We have powered vehicles. We have remote controls for our TVs. We have remote starters for our cars. We have so many things that are convenient, and at the same time, it makes us very lazy. So if you think that things outside of you are very convenient, what makes you think that your mind isn't saying, well, if the information is already cut up for me and it's already presented, then I'm going to believe whatever I hear, whatever I see, because your mind wants the quickest path and the least resistance. That's something I want you to think about. So the solution to all this, like I said, start questioning things. And when you start questioning things and you get control over your inner world, your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs, it gives you more power. It makes you become more empowered. That's why coaching is very powerful, guys, because I'm shaking up your belief system, the thoughts that you've had for years that keep you from getting to the goals that you want to get to. And when you shake those things up, you'll start to realize that goal is something I didn't really want for myself. I want it because I see somebody else do it or somebody else have it. I do it because my family wants me to do it. That's just what I see. And it's not really your goal. And that's the big thing. So back to what I was saying is question everything logically. Don't question out of emotion, because emotions, they move like the wind, they change like the seasons. Question everything logically, and does that make sense to you logically? Forget how you feel. Does it make sense to you logically? And when you do that, you'll start to see how people outside, I shouldn't even be telling you guys this, but I love you guys and I want you guys to be the men you want to be. You'll start to notice that people outside of you, family, friends, the media, whatever, people you meet, you'll start to see that their own ideas and thoughts aren't really theirs. They're doing actions that have nothing to do with what they really want. It's not even their values. They're doing things based off of what everybody else does. And you'll notice that because you're more self-aware of who you are, and you're more aware of what you actually want, and you can have control over yourself. Now, this is what happens when you start to have control over yourself. I don't want to be too long-winded. When you start to have control over yourself, the outside world gets smaller, meaning it has no control over you. So when it has no control over you, you have control over yourself, and the less control it has over you, the less influence it has over you, because we're influenced that way as well. Whatever has control over you has influence over you. So now what happens is you have control over yourself, your inner world. You question things, you do things because you actually want to do them, and it's you. In the outside world, you'll start to see it differently. And what'll happen is you have control over yourself. You don't necessarily have control in the outer world. People are going to do what they want to do, but you'll start to have influence. You'll start to have influence, persuasion, all that other stuff. And I'm not talking about for bad reasons, nothing crazy like that. But what I'm saying is the more logical you are, the more you think and you question things, the better it's going to be for you to influence like your family, your kids, your wife, your spouse, whatever. You're going to have a positive influence over them instead of the outside world having influence over them. So it's a very huge system. And let me show you what I mean by that. Let me erase all this so I can explain what I mean by that, guys. And it goes back to what I mentioned in one of my videos, where you have the will of individual perspective. And that's basically your life, what's important to you, and what goals you want to achieve based on that will. And if any part of that will is low, or you're not at a 10 on any of those parts, then it's hard for that will to balance. But when you're at 100 and everything inside that will is at 100, all those goals you want to meet, different parts of your life, are at a 10, then that will is going to balance perfectly. So this is what happens, guys. And it's going to make a lot of sense. So this is the will of individual perspective, right? So you got all these different parts. And what happens is, if you're at 50% or 5 in one, you're at 8 or 80% of the other one, you're at 3 or 3% at one, you're at 7% at one, and let's just say 66% at one. Will's all jacked up. Now, I want you to think about something. How much control do you have over your life, and how much control do you have, how much influence do you have on other people or the outside world? Because this is imperfect, right? You think like, my life's jacked up, there's no balance. And then you have the outside world. The outside world, you view everything perfect, right? So like when you see the news, yeah, it may be jacked up, or you're on social media, everybody's life is perfect, just a snippet. You assume that everything is at 100%, everything is perfect. And if everything is at 100% or perfect on the outside world, what do you think it does to your inside world, your inner world? It has control over you. That's why it's important. Whatever you're doing in life, fuck the bullshit. Do what you have to do to reach those goals that you want and create that balance in your life. Because once you create that balance, guys, let me show you something. And just so in case you want to do a snapshot, this is you unbalanced, not at 100%. This is the world, or the outer world, whatever you want to call it, at 100%. Control, no control. Control and influence, no control, no influence, because you're not at 100%. 100%. Let's just say, let's just say 70%. I don't want to say that you have no control completely. You have a little bit of something, but see the difference? Now, the great thing about having that control, and I said earlier, when it comes to systems, right? Now, actually, let me go ahead and show you guys something. So we're gonna put you at 100% this time. 100%. So I know you wanna be at 100%. This is you guys, my men out there. You're at 100%, right? All the spokes, everything in the wheel's at 100%. You're good, right? Now, this is you, this is your life. If you want to influence, like I said, the outer world, this is the outer world. You can influence, right? You can influence the outer world. Because technically, if you're at 100%, like I said earlier, you're gonna start to see the flaws, and you're gonna start to see people who are not really at 100%. You're gonna see things for what they are. So you're gonna see that things are not at 100%. They're all over the place. And if you have a family, if you have a wife, kids, I shouldn't be showing you. Anyway, so now that you're at 100%, this is your wife, your kids. I'll just put family, right? This is family. Now, what happens is when you're at 100%, like I said earlier, influence and control. I'm not saying you're controlling your family. I'm not saying you're controlling the outer world. You influence the outer world. You influence your family. But what happens is now that you're at 100%, you don't have to worry about the outer world influencing or controlling your family. And that's what it's all about, guys. That's the reason why you must know who you are. You must know who you are and be willing to put in the work to get to know yourself and getting rid of the things that do not serve you, stripping away the things that make no sense, questioning everything, and strengthen your mind so you can be at 100% in the inner world, influence your family in a positive way so they can be at 100%, and you don't have to worry about the outer world. Because the outer world, let me show you something as well. The outer world is moved by this thing called emotions. And I want to say fear as well. I want to say fear. Emotions and fear run the world. If we can agree on that, let me know. Emotions and fear run the world. When it comes to your family, this is what you want your family to run by. And let's just see. Emotions and logic. And the reason why I say that, because obviously you love your family and they're important to you. Also at the same time, logic. But we're not worried about the fear emotion that the world puts out. We're worried about love, positivity. And when you think like that and you have everything in order, it's so much easier to have a good life being yourself, and so much easier having a good life with your family. But when you're not at 100% and you don't know yourself, you don't question anything, you can be influenced by your family and the world, the outer world. That's 2 against 1. So I hope this makes sense to you guys. This has been a great video. It's been about 16 minutes, but I know you got some value from it. I know you got some knowledge from it, and I know you can apply it to your life. Till next time, you guys take care.